So we're at 2 minutes past 7 here in Hobart, and that means it's 2 minutes past 9 in Les Sables d'Olonne, and plenty going on, but nothing's really going on. It's pretty much as we described it yesterday. Certainly the weather all the way across the course is, all very benign, and most people are having a good time, except for Kirsten and Abelish, who are still stuck in a hole, going nowhere fast, and Simon's roaring away still, so that's good. Anyway, not good for Kirsten and Abelish. So Guy, you can see now, is coming up out of the zone. We not sure whether we figure he did know where he was, but he might have been thinking he can take a few liberties there, but we can't penalise him for going inside the zone because Chichester's not up for any rankings or any awards. They're just making a voyage home, and but he's on the program. He's got a bit of breeze there. It was probably during the night, and he's now on his way out of the zone as well, so that's kind of cool. Making great speed previously. The previous 4 hours before this latest update position was 7.2 knots, and now he's doing 6.3 knots with a pretty nice west-southwesterly wind. So he's happy with that. Elliot's now come up a little bit, heading towards Australia, doing 4.3 knots. In the last 24 hours, he's done 61 nautical miles against Guy, who did 145 nautical miles, which is pretty cool. So we'll just roll that weather through. It's now a bit of a mix. That big high pressure system's now mixed up with everything happening below them. So nothing really significant in terms of size, just lots of local bits. So moving forward, Elliot's still going. This is coming into midnight tonight UTC. So Elliot's okay. He's got a nice breeze there, but Guy might get overtaken by this sort of big zone of zero wind in the centre of what must be a high, because it's a westerly below him. So that's going to slow him down. So this is through into tomorrow afternoon. And yeah, Elliot's doing fine, but Guy's going to go real slow. That's through till tomorrow night, coming into the 10th. So this is 2 days ahead. Guy's sailing again, and Elliot's got a constant southwesterly breeze, so he'll be making reasonably good time. That's all good. Now coming across here to today, bring that back on the weather. And Ian Herbert Jones in a nice breeze, 5.1 knots. He's done 138 in the last 24 hours. Jeremy making 113 nautical miles, and he's currently doing 5.6 knots with a building wind. He's probably got 30 knots there, gusting 38, something like that, maybe as high as 40, but still good sailing, and there's probably only about 3 to 4 metre seas on that one. Michael Goog doing 4.3, and he's... where's his 24 hours? Hang on. Oh, that's not right. He's done 332 nautical miles in the last 24 hours. So just once again, I keep getting a lot of emails about glitches in the system. Just to remind everyone, we're actually using the YB3 tracker. This is their standard tracker, and we ask a lot of it because usually they're done, the biggest races they usually do are sort of across the Atlantic, but usually it's only, even inshore racing, they're still using the same trackers and same YB3 transmitting device to get positions. So we ask it to do an around the world race, and each of the legs, more or less, down the Atlantic to Cape Town, then Cape Town to Hobart, and then around to Punta, which has now been cancelled, so we'll change that, and then back up to Les Sables d'Olonne, are big races in their own right. It's like 4 different races, and the program gets stretched to the limit, but it has glitches in it. This happened in 2018, and what we did then to save the issue, we cancelled everything in terms of the 24-hour runs and so on. But anyway, they're working on a few things. They're doing the best they can. We didn't have the huge amounts of money to do a dedicated program, and we really like this program with the wind coverage and the waves and the currents and everything. It's quite versatile. It's quite graphic. It's easy to understand. But to a degree, we've got to put up with these glitches every now and then. So if you see it, forget about that. You don't necessarily need to know the exact 24-hour run of Captain Goog, and it'll catch up. It'll sort itself out probably tomorrow. It's doing quite a few things, and we're stretching their capacity to the limit with this, even though it's not so sophisticated. But that's what we've got to work with, and we thank YB3 and Yellow Brick for what they're doing for us. So let's just watch the weather. We'll just keep Kirsten and Abelish out of it. Interesting watching Benabetesia's course. You see him come across right to the edge of New Zealand, then dip down again. He waited off the bottom of Tassie, as you know, to pass messages across. And you'll see Sue Haley later on go through. She's up high at the moment. You'll see her stop in New Zealand for a while in Dunedin and down the bottom in Stewart Island, while he was trying to liaise and meet up with his mate to deliver and read letters to him. Anyway, so I think I can build that up to one more shot here so we can see the three of them. And before we do that, let's see the distance of Jeremy to Hobart so we can keep an eye on the ETAs. He's 400 miles from Hobart at the moment, so normally that'd be 2.5, 3 days, or normally be 3 days, but for Jeremy it's probably 4 days, so that's still looking about the 11th, and then another day for stalling, maybe the 12th. But let's look at what the weather does and keep a reference on that. So just toggling that through. Okay, so here we go. This is late today. Ian's going to slow down a little bit, but then he keeps going. Jeremy's got a good breeze. He'll be making good time on that. And here we go for the first 24 hours. He's going to slow down a bit there. Captain Goog's not doing too well because he's got very light following breezes there, and so he'll slow down to about 2 or 3 knots, I reckon. So he'll be taking a steady course under New Zealand. Continue that on. This is Jeremy 24 hours from now. He'll be back sailing again, so he'll probably make an 80-mile day, maybe 70-mile day. And then he keeps going. Goog sailing again. Ian Herbert Jones is sailing quite well. And by this stage, we're into 2 days ahead to the 10th. Jeremy's going to be around about here somewhere and going slow. So this is where he starts to add the extra day to his time coming in. And then there's a huge hole forming there. So Goog's still going, Ian's still going, but Jeremy will be, at this stage, sitting in here somewhere with very light headwinds. So that's making me think, as we said before, probably around the 12th, maybe even into the 13th. So that's probably enough of that. You can see it's very confusing there. That little bit of breeze is going to be on the nose, so then he'll be tacking. This is on the 11th. He'll be down here, so he'll be closer, but he'll go slow with the headwinds. So we'll follow that again tomorrow, and now we'll look at the 3 leaders here, the lead group, although it looks like we're coming to a lead group and then a guy out the front right now. Let's see what the distance is. We're projecting that he could get up to 800 miles out of this lot. Okay, there we go. It's a given. He's 720 miles at the moment, and I was predicting by tomorrow he will probably be at least 800 miles, and that's looking like the case for now. So we've got Abelish has managed 34 nautical miles in the last 24 hours. Kirsten's done 13 nautical miles in the last 24 hours, and not going anywhere in a hurry, doing 1.2 knots for the last 4-hour average, and Abelish doing 3 knots, a little bit more. And Simon, he's managed 92 and he's doing 6.3 knots at the moment. So that's what we've got at the moment. Let's just toggle this forward and see what happens. You'll see Simon's always in the breeze. Abelish and Kirsten over the next 3-4 hours are just going to stop dead in the water. They've gone into the centre of that zone of no wind. Still over the top of them. This is by late tonight. There goes 12 hours of going nowhere. And then, this is what we were saying yesterday, the problem is they're now on the wrong side of the no wind zone. They're going to have to try and push through that. So that's not a good thing for them. This is on the nights. This is by tomorrow. So there's an absolute weather split there because they're now on the opposite side of this high pressure system, and Simon's getting pushed across the top into the next one with plenty of breeze, a really strong south-southwesterly. So not good for Kirsten and Abelish. Anyway, they're having their own little race there. Abelish has actually squeaked a little bit ahead on the run line, so he's got a bit of a lead there. We'll keep pushing it through and see how many days this is going to roll out to. This is, you can see it's moving ahead of them, so at least they'll get sailing and they might be able to follow it for a while. But that's 2 days ahead, so there we go. There, 2 days. They've probably lost nearly 3/4 of a day there going nowhere. And then it does catch up with Simon. So same as we said last night, or yesterday rather, it's similar. So he may slow down a bit, but boy, they got a big catch up. Nearly 3 days ahead here, and then there's all sorts of things going on. A bit too hard to predict here because there's a lot of influencing factors. There's a low pressure system up off the top of the North Island, creating counter winds, and yesterday we thought it was going to turn into a northerly for them, so they might squeak up over the corner. But how far across will they get by the time this gets here? So all part of the fun. Anyway, we look forward to catching up tomorrow, and let's see what it looks like then.